Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to ENTP7311. Tonight I'm going to deal with Unit 5, which is Chapter 9 in your textbook. Before I get people asking me, I'm busy with the assignments. I have not finished marking them yet. I should be finished in the, probably, I'm busy with another batch marking as well. So I'm probably going to be finished by late Friday or early Saturday, and I'll then upload the marks and make sure they're published. I will also do a video in the next day or two regarding assignment 2 so that you guys can start getting going with that one. So yes, I'm going to be doing a lot of work. You'll see tonight as well, there's a whole section in the work that I'm not going to deal with tonight, because if I deal with that, then I can't deal with the last part I want to deal with. So there's at least 2 videos coming your way in the next couple of days. But yeah, I am working on the assignment, so not to worry. Okay, let's start talking about revenue models. So there you've got what the learning unit talks about. The learning outcome 2 is the one that I said I'm not going to do tonight. There are 10 revenue models that we will not look at, but I would be doing that in a video, and that video would go very well with learning outcome 3, how you generate profiting from free or freemium, as it's called, as opposed to a premium model. They talk about a freemium model. I'll touch on that tonight, but I'm not going to deal with it. I will deal with that with learning unit 2 or learning outcome 2, and learning outcome 3 will be together in the one video that I'll make, which could be, it shouldn't be too long, but it's quite, I've got to deal with 10 different aspects and then freemium in there, and it becomes quite a long chunk of work, which I don't want to spoil tonight with, because we are going to look at the pricing strategies, and that's also another issue that we need to sort out. Okay, so what's a revenue model? Revenue is your income gain from sales, so we should all know that. In other words, that's the cash in the till. We're not talking profit, we're not talking costs, we're not talking anything. Revenue, cash in the till, right? Income gain from sales. So that is, when we look at businesses differ. I mean, there's hundreds of different businesses, and there's hundreds of different business models. But revenue is the one constant in business. We talk about entrepreneurs wanting to add value. How do we add value? By making money. How do we make money? We've got to generate a revenue. So the beginning and end, the beginning of making money is to generate a revenue. If there's no cash coming through the till, then you can't make a profit, or you can't make a living. You can't generate value. And in some people will tell you that money through the till, especially in the initial stages of a business, is more important than profit. If you've got cash flow, so money coming in, money going out, money coming in, money going out. You sell some product, you get some money in, you can buy raw materials, you turn them around, sell more product. So you've got the revenue going. You don't have to worry about profit initially, but because the business will continue to survive because you're covering your costs. It means you're not putting anything in your pocket. If you're lucky, you're drawing a small salary, but the business as a business will survive. You're not adding value to your capital outlay, but that can come later, as long as you've got a good solid revenue model. And the revenue, so that's the revenue. The revenue module is, how am I going to generate revenue and how am I going to make profit? So in other words, how am I going to get this money coming through the till? And in addition, how does that generate profit? So revenue is simply money through the till. A revenue model determines how you're going to turn, let me put it this way. It's a key component of the business model. So It explains how the entrepreneurs will make money and how you'll capture that value whilst delivering on your CVP. Remember CVP, customer value proposition, which you've outlined in your business model. In other words, how are you going to deliver what the customer wants? How is that going to cause money to go through the till? And how is that money going through till going to include a revenue? And if you can show that as part of your business model, then you can go to your investors, the people that you think will invest in your company, and you can get them to then say, okay, if you can show me this, then they'll say to you, once you show me that, then I can show you how much money I can invest. Because now you're showing me a business model that is workable. You're showing me something that I can see this is going to make money because I can see the revenue model. In other words, I can see how you're going to deliver on that CVP. So the questions you have to ask in establishing this revenue model, that this model that's going to give you the strategy for generating revenue from your business, and there's simple questions you can ask. So how much money are my customers willing to pay? What is my product worth, and how much are customers willing to pay? And a classic one on this one is Prime. You know the drink Prime? Remember when Prime came out? Guys were paying hundreds of rands for a can of Prime. Because Prime created that need, it created that image, and therefore customers were willing to pay for it. Once the hype died down, I saw Prime now some time ago at where was it? Checkers. I saw Prime standing there for like 20 rand a can or something, and it was a couple of 100 rand a can. We had guys on campus who were walking around with cans of Prime in their hand. And you know, after a week, you can see, look, that's still the same can of Prime. He's probably putting bottled water in there, but he wants everybody to see he's drinking Prime. But customers were willing to pay it. So that was part of Prime's revenue model. They gave it this hype, they gave it this image, and people were prepared to pay. How many customers do I need? So it depends on your revenue model. So you might have a revenue model that says, I need a few customers because I'm charging a premium, right? Rolex hasn't got a lot of customers. There aren't many Rolexes available, but they charge an absolute premium on what they're delivering. How much revenue can I generate? If I take how much my customers are willing to pay me, how many customers do I think I need? How much revenue can I get? How much money is going to come through the till, right? And then, can I have more than one revenue stream? Is it possible for me to do things to make my business make money in more than one way? So for example, and I always go back to coffee. I love coffee as an example. If you think of these coffee pod machines, right? I make money through selling the machine. Then I make money through the pods. And the pods, I can make money by selling the pods, or I can have a subscription model to the pods. There's 3 income streams. I've got one income stream coming from the sale of my machine, and I might have 2 or 3 models of machines, but let's call it one income stream. Then I've got a retail stream from pods, where people can buy individual pods, packs of pods, or whatever. And then I've got people that subscribe, and monthly we send pods out to them. 3 different income streams, right? How much are each one going to contribute? The machines are obviously going to contribute the least, because the machine is a once-off sale, and hopefully those machines are going to last people 5 years, 10 years, or whatever it is. So that's a small income stream, but it's an important income stream, because that income stream might actually be enough to cover a lot of the other costs that I have. So that income stream that I make out of my machines may be the income stream, may be a big enough income stream that I know I don't have to worry about my factory's rental, my water, my lights, right, my internet. So in other words, let's talk about my fixed costs, excluding labor, right? If I can cover that, now I know I've got my retail pods and I've got my subscription middle. And now I can argue either way which one will be the bigger income stream. But the fact is, I have that income stream and I know what I'm doing with that money, and the other two income streams that will contribute then, and that's going more towards my profit. So there's different types of revenue models. And some companies operate on one primary revenue model. Others use a combination of models, different types of revenue models with different types of revenue streams. Some may be a constant daily stream, right? Like the selling of pods. Some may a more inconsistent stream that only happens occasionally, such as selling of machines. And then you might have some kind of I almost call it a dividend stream, but a stream that only gives you money occasionally. So for example, if you license part of the machines or a way in which your machine works, you license that out to another company so they can use that part of the machine in their machines, and they pay you an annual fee. So you get an annual licensing fee from them. So you're only getting money from that stream once every so often, right? The types also determine different ways in which revenue is generated. But this affects who your customers will be. A retailer, for example, that generates retail through online sales is probably attracting people that like to buy stuff on their phones rather than to travel to the shops. And that might mean they're not necessarily your end user, right? So there's all types of different ways to look at this, and each type then determines different ways in which the revenue will be generated. The text deals with 10 or 11 different types of revenue streams. I mentioned that at the beginning, and I said I'd deal with that separately. I'm not going to deal with that tonight. But there's also something I want to talk about is freemium. Where we make money out of a free product. I was privileged enough, sorry, I need to just have a quick sip of water. I was privileged enough to stay in Europe for a while. Spent just about 3 years in Austria, in Vienna. You probably know that because I love talking about the place. I love the place. Loved the place. And I was the house husband, so I looked after my daughter. And I had to take my daughter to creche every morning, and there it's all public transport. So we used to walk up the road and then hop on a train and drive 10 stations or whatever, and then walk down to the creche, and I'd drop her off, and then I'd come back up. And they had every morning a free newspaper at the train station. Obviously in German, or Österreichisch, as they call it there. It's the Austrian form of German. And I couldn't speak this. So I picked up this newspaper every day for free, and I would try to read these articles. And because I'm Afrikaans speaking, some words are familiar. And I had German 100 years ago in standard 6. That's for those you guys, the newfangled guys, that's grade 8. I had German. So I could read the odd word, but most of the words I couldn't read. So I underlined those words and I went home and I would look them up in the dictionary. And that's how I learned to speak a little bit of German. But this daily newspaper that was distributed throughout Vienna at every single station, there were big packs like this for free. How did they make money? Their model was a freemium model. So newspapers for free. In that newspaper, there's a bunch of adverts. The adverts paid for the newspaper, and I, as the end user, got it for free. So they made money out of handing something out for free. But they were the vehicle that the advertisers got their message out. And all the big electronic stores, all the big shopping centers, they would have adverts in there on a daily basis. Because public transport is such a big thing. Lots of people take public transport because you're bored on public transport. If you can pick up something for free to read for the 10 stations, you would read them. And that the newspaper was the Daily Zeitung or something like that, was the way in which the message, the marketing message from all these retail stores reached the customer. But the fact is, it was a free model, right? So that's one of the ways in which you could make money from free, less free, half free, part free, call it what you want to. Are things like you get your free, you take out a cell phone contract, you're getting it for free. It's not really free. They've included the price of the cell phone in the contract over 24 months. You're paying the phone off over 24 months. But you're getting it for free. But I'm going to deal with that when I deal with the different types of revenue models. I'll also do a whole section on the free model as part of that whole presentation, that video that I'll do in the next couple of days for you and release it. But for now, just be aware there are different types of these models, and although we will deal with the number that's in the book, you will also be able to say, but what if they do this? What's that called? So obviously, it's not going to be exhaustive. It's not going to be, the book's not going to deal with every single possible one, because there will be ones that are not dealt with in the book, because we can't deal with every single thing, and you can possibly come up with new ones. Now, if we've got a revenue model, we've got revenue drivers and cost drivers. So we need to look at what is driving the revenue. And it's more factors than just buying or selling that we need to take into consideration. You just selling products or services, for that matter, will make you money, but there are other things, right? So the first key driver is customers, right? First driver is customers. So how are customers driving revenue? And there's an example in your book. If a coffee shop provides unlimited coffee for free, this almost makes you think of the freemium model, no? But they charge a per minute flat fee for the amount of time you spend in the cafe. Then you need to figure out how many customers will actually come into the coffee shop and how much would they be willing to be paid, because it's a different way of looking at how customers can drive revenue. Frequency. How often are your customers there? How often will your customers buy your product? And what will be the incentive for them to buy it? Is there a reason why your customer will buy your product more regularly? Right? Can you create an incentive for the customer to buy your product more regularly? And incentives can be simple things. On the campus where I work, for example, our little coffee shop, restaurant, canteen, call it what you want to. You buy 10 cups of coffee, you get a cup of coffee for free. I've got colleagues who get 3 cups of coffee a month for free. Yep, they'll drink 30 cups of coffee in a month because they're after that incentive. They believe that 3 cups of coffee is a bargain. I couldn't drink that much coffee even if I wanted to. Your selling process. How are you selling your product, and how is that driving your revenue? Right? Is your selling process a easy selling process? For example, I don't watch much television, but I do like watching YouTube, because I like watching real stuff. I don't watch movies. And there's a whole bunch of channels on YouTube, reality type of stuff. People that are working, they're building a farm up. I watch some certain sports. I like sumo, Japanese sport. So I watch some of the guys there, and so on. And all of this I get in YouTube. The selling process is brilliant. You say once, I want to do this, and you subscribe, and I never have to know about it again. It's paid. It just goes off my account. I don't have to every month click a button, ask a thing, nothing, right? I think once in 12 months they send me like a thing, and it's just, do you want to continue to subscribe? And I push a button, and I say yes, and boom, that just happens. So it's a very easy, comfortable selling process, and that drives their revenue because it's so simple, it's so easy, it's not a difficult thing. And then of course price. Your price will always be a driver, and you need to think that, can I charge more than my competitor charges, and will people still buy it? Is my quality of such a nature that people will still buy it although I'm charging more? Or is my model of such a nature that I'm charging less and I'm increasing the frequency, right? Or I'm charging more, but my selling process is easier, right? So these things don't work on their own. They work in a combination. And the only way that you're going to figure this out is you're going to do a hypothesis. In other words, you can say, I think this is what people want. And then you'll actively test your assumptions and the hypothesis to figure out what are the underlying factors that actually drive the revenue. And that you'll do right at the beginning of the business, right? So you'll look at things where you're going to locate it, who are your target customers, and figure out and go look at competitors. If it's a coffee shop, and you say, I'm going to target students, right? Then go to coffee shops that students frequent and go look at what they're doing. Look at how they're charging. Look, when are they busy? When are they when is there big volume? When's there virtually nobody there? You know, a coffee shop for students, there's no sense in staying open late into the evening because most students won't hang out in a coffee shop in the evenings. They would rather go out with their friends and jolling and that type of thing, and they're not going to be jolling in a coffee shop. Although I have heard about coffee raves and stuff like that, so that might be a thing. And once you've done that type of experimentation and thinking and working through it, then you can actually start coming up and testing your hypothesis and saying, well, I've looked at these various things. We're going to implement this and that and the other in my shop, and then we can see how this works. But that you do right at the beginning. Your pricing strategy is important, right? So a important subset of revenue and revenue driving is pricing. So you've got to get your pricing right. And that can be a really, really difficult thing for startup entrepreneurs to do. Many entrepreneurs struggle with how much to charge for their product or service. If your price is too high, your customers might not arrive, or you might drive them away. Your price is too low, you might run the risk of making a very little profit, or your customers might even question the quality. And they might say, well, it can't be that cheap for a quality product, therefore it's not, it can't be genuine, right? So you need to figure out how are you going to price, and in many cases you price that around the competition, right? You will find in textbooks that they tell you how to determine the price. Some textbooks will give you very elaborate sums, right? I will argue that you can determine the cost price of something, but by a mere sum, you cannot determine the selling price, right? And the cost price is something that is very easy to deal with. You dealt with that in Business Management 1A. How do what's the cost of the product, and you dealt with break-even point. So that's very easy to calculate. The pricing, your actual price, you cannot determine the price with a calculation, right? You need to look at how your product is placed. There's no right way, or there's not even a long-term fixed price, right? You'll have to adjust your prices according to your demand. As your business evolves, your pricing may go up or may go down, right? And you're going to have to use the information that you have to determine how you price it. Your positioning of your brand in the market will affect how much it sells for. I spoke about Rolex earlier. A Rolex sells for more than a Seiko sells for, and a Citizen is cheaper than a Seiko, purely because they where they are positioned, right? And you can do the same things with cars. A Ferrari is much more expensive than a BMW, and a Ford is much cheaper than a BMW because of where they've positioned themselves in the market. We can carry that on to supermarkets, for example, right? Just off the top of my head, Woolworths, Pick and Pay, Checkers, ShopRite. Although I must watch out with things like Checkers, for example, where Checkers has said they will directly take on Woolworths. And if you've been into one of the new brand Checkers, the new stores, you'll understand why they say they could take on Woolworths. And in certain places, they're already doing a very good job in taking on Checkers. Woolworths. In some places, they've pushed Pick and Pay out of the market completely and taken over Pick and Pay's market, and they're now challenging Woolworths. But that's also where we said that pricing strategy is dynamic. It changes over time. Again, so there's different types of pricing strategies, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't want to speak about the other stuff earlier, because we're going to go through all of these. So competition-led pricing, right? With a competition-led, you simply charge what the other people charge. You're not trying to stand out in the market. You're not trying to be the market leader or anything. You simply say, what are the competitors charge? I will charge the same price. I'm not going to charge that much more, that much less. Go and look at some groceries. Look at sugar. Look at flour. They very, very similar price. There's very little difference between the pricing. It's a couple of percentage, and it differs. Sometimes this one's more expensive, sometimes that one's more expensive. And there may be a small difference in quality, but typically they're very evenly priced. Customer-led pricing, right? You go to your customers and say, buddy, how much are you going to pay me for this product? What do you think is a sorry, and if you competition-led pricing, you must find a different way to differentiate your product other than pricing. So packaging, special things, or volume-based discounts. So customer-led, you ask your customers how much they're willing to pay, right? And you offer it at that price. Some airlines use it. So they offer prices on their websites where they say to a customer, you want a flight from point A to point B, well, how much are you prepared to bid for that ticket? And then the first person gets a little bit cheap, but the second person then, and the prices go up as people bid for tickets. We've got something called a loss leader. That's the practice of offering a product or a service below cost. Because you're trying to attract customers, right? So you're giving them a special discount, reducing the prices, and that is, you could do two things with that. It's a way to compete with an established brand, all right, that offers similar products and services. It's also, loss leaders are also used in the retail arena to attract people to a shop. So many times you see a special. This 56-inch television is priced at the same price as a 22-inch television. Off you storm to Macro if you're going to go buy this TV. They only have 10 of those at that price. But you're in the store, and while you're in the store, you're buying 6 other things. So loss leaders are used differently. So for a customer, a loss leader can be to attract new customers and get customers to, for a manufacturer, a loss leader could be to attract customers to their product, to their brand, to their name, so the customers can try it, and to attract them away from competitors. For a retailer, a loss leader could be a product that they're selling to attract people into the store so that they buy other things. And then we have an introductory offer. New products are sold cheap or heavily discounted, and this could be for a certain period or a certain amount of volume. And the introduction pricing is used for new products and services on the market. So what you want to do is you want to get your product out there. You want people to buy your product, and people buy the product, they use the product, they tell their friends it's a great product. Also, because it's typically your introductory offer is almost like a loss leader. It's a really good price. People might decide not to buy their normal brand; they'll buy your brand. And I've been caught so many times with that. I see a new product. Yes, this is a new product. Interesting. Good price. Buy the product. Yes, this product works well. Then we use the product in the house. Next time we go buy groceries, we buy it again. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's fine. Next time we go buy it, this is a great product. Buy it again. It's priced at about what the other products are priced. And the third time, fourth time you're going back to buy it, you see, but hang on, this is actually more expensive than the other product. They have done an introductory offer on you. They don't tell you, look, buy this for an introductory offer. They just do it, and then they increase their price over time as they have grown their market and as more and more people start buying it. Skimming for new products and service, that's the opposite. That's what they do with, like, when the new Apple iPhone comes out. Companies offer it. You can get the first, only be importing 100, and they're going to be 30,000 rands each. And 100 people buy them because they want the first people. They're skimming off the top of the market. They're charging a premium. They're above the market. They're skimming the profit off the top. And then when the masses start coming in, then the price drops back to what the normal price is. But if you're prepared to pay that extra price, that skimming price, you're the first one that has it, because you pay the premium for it. And you can also do that if you've got a new product that nobody else has. If you've got something that does, if you've got a product that does stuff that nobody else's product can do, then you can also charge that type of skimming. Then we've got the psychological pricing, and there's a whole way. There's many ways of using psychological pricing. The idea is that the customer thinks they're getting something cheaper. A flash sale. My brother-in-law used to own a sports shop, and he used to have regular closing down sales. And when people asked him, but we had a closing down sale, but you haven't closed down, he said, yes, I was closing the season down. So he wouldn't have an end of season, he would have a closing down sale. And you get these flash sales, one day only specials. Another way is a buy one, get one free type of thing. But when you look at the price is actually not half the price of 2 products. And then bundled products. Food Lovers Market, very well known for bundled products. This Friday only, 100 Rand, you get a small bag of potatoes, 2 watermelons, a bag of onions, a bag of tomatoes, a cucumber, and 2 things of grapes, 100 rands. Boom. Right? It may be cheaper, right? Or it may be more expensive. But psychologically, you're saying, look, there, I'm getting all of that stuff for just 100 Rand. And then you get the 9.99 pricing, of course, as well, which is 10 Rand. But in your mind, it's 9.99. Fair pricing, where you say, what do I, having done my financial homework, what do I as an entrepreneur think my product or service is fairly priced? And what do my customers think is a fair price? And I charge that price. So my customers are happy. My customers are happy. They're getting a good price for the product. I'm happy because I'm making enough profit on the product. And both parties walk away and everybody's happy. And then you get the bundled pricing, which I think is the last one we're going to deal with tonight. It's where you're packaging a set of goods or services together. And they're then sold as a lower price than they were if they were sold separately. This is not the same as a psychological pricing, right? Where you just randomly bundling things. This is saying, okay, if you buy a bread and butter together, this is our price, right? Or you buy boerewors and you buy a can of salsa with that, right? So you can serve your boerewors with a nice tomato sauce on it, right? A smoortjie. That's a different case. So guys, I think I'm going to stop it there. What you need to understand is in terms of looking at the pricing, looking at the different strategies and the various revenue models that you can have. You need to understand the difference between a revenue model and a business model. Now, if you think we've dealt with business models, the business model is the overall thing about how are we going to sell this product. The revenue model fits in as part of the business model, and that means how are we going to get money flowing through the till. As part of our revenue model, we need to have a pricing strategy. Okay? So those three things are actually, we're going from the big business model to the revenue model to the pricing strategy. Okay. And then, yeah, look out for the video that I'm going to make about the different types of revenue modules. I wanted to get to pricing strategy, and I wanted to deal with revenue models as a separate thing. And when we start talking assignments, you'll understand why I also think it's better for you to do it that way. Okay, so look out for this. This I'll probably put up tomorrow, this video. And then look out for my other videos that I'm going to post within the next couple of days for you to help you out. Thanks, guys. As you can see there, when you watch the videos, you can always drop me an email if you've got any questions. Thanks to those that have dropped me questions. I really don't mind it, and I actually like interacting. I know very few of you. It's a very small class. I think you're 5 or 6 people in the class. So I understand that hardly anybody's going to ever pitch, but please feel free to drop me emails, and I'm happy to answer your questions in that manner. Thanks, guys. Keep well. Cheers.